enter. Now you see him crossing all the lanes here of traffic coming out of that carpool lane now into the number 4 lane. But again, traffic speeds are down to probably about 40 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour, and the CHP right behind him. Yeah, as well as the LAPD staying in it.
Looks like the CHP is making an aggressive move here, getting very close to him.
Yeah, now at these speeds, they could very easily do that pit maneuver, but you know, they may not do that because of the amount of traffic or the amount of cars on the freeway here. So it's one of those situations where if they have the ability and it's safe for the officer and safe for the public, they will definitely do a pit maneuver. But in these kind of conditions, they may hold off and wait until they have a better opportunity to do so.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they're in any position to do that right now because, as you mentioned, all that other traffic around them. He's moved over across lanes, as you mentioned. Is he preparing to get off? Is there an exit coming up here?
I'm trying to look ahead here to see what the next off-ramp would be. He's coming up to that Carmageddon area on the 405 here southbound. And now he could take I'm sorry, excuse me. He could take one of these exits here, but at this point, not so much. Brian, we're getting some exhaust.
Back into the HOV lane.
Going all the way across. Yep, Sandra, all the way across. He's trying to find, you know, the path of least resistance here, and he's found it at this point so far.
Yeah, if you're going to
out so you can see the traffic.
If you're going to pick the path of least resistance, I'm not sure the 405 would be the right choice, especially through the Sepulveda Pass. Always a busy area. Yeah,
I don't think he was expecting this. We're trying to get into a different position here. We apologize for the exhaust coming through the screen there momentarily. But again, the speed's down to maybe 30 miles an hour, 25. But jumping into that carpool lane is going to be his best choice at this point, getting through the Sepulveda Pass here.
Again, if you're just joining us, this is breaking news. A police pursuit, CHP now taking over the pursuit from LAPD officers, and they're in pursuit of that blue SUV you see right there in the center of your screen. CHP getting pretty close to that driver. We believe there's only one person inside the vehicle. This started in Van Nuys. The driver took the 118 westbound, then came back eastbound through Porter Ranch, Simi Valley, Granada Hills, Mission Hills, North Hills, Van Nuys, Sherman Oaks, and now on the 405 southbound in the Sepulveda Pass. And Gil, you mentioned that this driver was simply wanted for a stolen vehicle until the pursuit happened.
Yeah, that's right, Sandra. You know, the LAPD got behind this vehicle, noticed that it was a stolen vehicle. They got units into position. They tried to make a traffic stop on that vehicle, and that's when the guy took off. They were reporting early on in the pursuit that he was running red lights and driving at high speeds, ending up getting on that 118 freeway westbound, heading towards like the Simi Valley area. But then he decided to turn around and go back eastbound on that 118, then getting to the 405, heading southbound on the 405, past the 101, and now we're in the Sepulveda Pass at this point. Now I'm looking ahead here, and I'm looking at the traffic. It looks like it's getting to be, it's starting to spread out a little bit here, so he's going to have the ability to go a little bit faster and with less or more options as far as changing lanes and so on. So the cars are starting to speed up here, going down the grade, and we're going to lose him here momentarily behind this hill. But so the pursuit can now, at this point, start to pick up speed because of the traffic moving faster.
All right, we want to go live to the telephone right now. We have Officer Ricardo Quintero on the telephone with us. Officer, what can you tell us about the suspect in this vehicle? Officer Quintero, can you hear us? All right, we'll go back to the telephone in just a few minutes. Again, if you're just joining us, breaking news, a police pursuit, CHP in pursuit of a stolen vehicle, now making their way through the Sepulveda Pass. This is the 405 southbound. Our Gil Levis is overhead in Sky 9. And Gil, it looks like a lot of traffic in this area.
Yeah, it's starting to slow down again. We're coming down the grade here, approaching Sunset. And like I said, CHP has taken over the pursuit. They took it over just before the 101 freeway. Southbound, he decided to continue southbound on that 405 freeway past the 101. And now he's coming down into the West LA area with the CHP now taking over the pursuit. And listening into the CHP, we're trying to pick up to see what their options are here to try to bring this to an end. But at this point, traffic through that 405, as usual, is rather heavy. And you can see this is a different move here. He's going to try to squeeze in here. You see that officer pulling up right alongside of him. And they were talking about possibly trying to get in front of him, which usually we don't see that happen very often. But we'll see what that officer is going to do here. It could do a pit maneuver at this point, but I don't see that happening because of all the surrounding vehicles. But again, you know, the CHP will try to bring this to an end, and you can see the suspect now is accelerating and speeding up. Here we go. He's changing lanes here. And
Gil, you're right. It looks like the CHP is trying to get in front of him. How fast are they going right now?
Well, it looks like they picked up the speeds about 65, 70 miles an hour here now, coming through Sunset Boulevard, again, southbound 405. And, you know, the driver, he's trying to figure out what the CHP is trying to do with him. He's straddling that carpool lane, and then that CHP officer coming up very aggressively there, trying to maybe take a look into the vehicle, possibly try to get in front of him. But you know, I don't really see. He's in a position where he might do like a pit maneuver. You would think that would be the position he would be in, but you can see he's trying to pull up right alongside of him, possibly. And it's very different. We don't really see that very often. The officers pulling up alongside of him. It could be that they're just trying to see how many people are in the car.
Yeah, it's very interesting, especially on a busy freeway like this. We usually see CHP kind of lay back a little bit and let the person who's being pursued decide what happens unless there is some danger to the public. And really the way he's driving, 65 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour in the carpool lane, not extremely dangerous. So it's very interesting that the CHP is pulling up close to him like that.
Yeah, now, and at this point, he's starting to now bounce in and out of lanes here, which, you know, it's kind of typical in pursuits for a suspect to do that in congested conditions here. And again, the freeway's starting to slow down here a little bit. Now there's construction through this area. I believe it's Wilshire Boulevard that he's approaching. You can see the construction there on that side. That's going to slow up traffic here as they go through that section of freeway. But again, now it's picking up speed here, staying in that #1 lane. CHP right behind him, about 70 miles an hour here, and heading towards the 10 freeway at this point. The 10 freeway, I'm looking ahead, and I'm looking at, you know, the conditions look about the same. So here we go, the CHP coming all the way across. You see him two lanes wide there. Very different than what we normally see in a pursuit like this. And here he is, almost side by side with the suspect vehicle. So,
Gil, we're going to break away from you for just a moment. Yeah. Excuse me for interrupting. We'll stay with your live pictures. We want to go to the telephone. Officer Vince Ramirez joining us now from the California Highway Patrol.
Hey, Brian,
and officer, what can you tell us about this suspect that's being pursued?
Yes, good morning, Sandra. It looks like the information we got from the LAPD was that this is a reported stolen vehicle. And the information came in through a low jack hit on this vehicle. It is occupied. We understand there may be possibly two occupants in the vehicle. And the last location that we show is southbound 405 at Wilshire. And there was reports that they may have been throwing money out the window. Again, we have a couple of units, at least 2 units in pursuit of this vehicle. Looks like they're approaching the 10 freeway now.
Yes, it looks like they're getting off a ramp here and making a transition. Officer, you mentioned that they might have been throwing money out of the vehicle. Was the vehicle involved in some sort of robbery that we know about?
Unfortunately, we don't have that information. We're wondering why they would be doing this.
Okay, we're watching now a pit maneuver. Let's go back up to Gil. Vince Ramirez, stay with us, please. Yes. Gil, what are you seeing?
Well, we see guns drawn now on this suspect. The CHP doing a pit maneuver right there on the Pico off-ramp. Now they're trying to get into position here. We're going to try to get that tree out of the shot, but CHP with guns drawn. They had a crossfire situation there for a moment, but that officer got back around. The suspect driver is opening his car door and exiting. He seems to be complying with the officers. He's got his hands up, but the pit maneuver was an excellent job there by the CHP doing that pit maneuver. The secondary car coming in and blocking in his car from going forward, And that was it. He had no options at that point except to surrender. Now, the CHP are conducting that felony stop here. The driver has his hands up, walking backwards to the officers, and have guns drawn at the car as well to see if there's that secondary person inside that vehicle. But here you see the driver now complying with the officers, but they're taking him into custody at this point, and now they're going to try to get that other person out of the car if there is another second person in that vehicle. Guns drawn, they're going to make their approach here. I'm going to double in here real quick to take a look, and they're clearing the vehicle, and it looks like it's cleared. No one in the car at this point. They may open that back rear tailgate, but at this point, the pursuit is over at the Pico off-ramp at the 405 southbound. Excellent job by the CHP that turn, and that's what I was talking about. They wait for an opportunity where it's clear, and when they get into a turning situation like that, it seems to be ideal for that pit maneuver. One person in custody, stolen vehicle out of the Van Nuys division of LAPD. This pursuit is over.
Boy, that was a textbook case of a pit maneuver there, Gil, when we saw them just move in, stop that vehicle, get the driver out, and no other cars involved, and it didn't look like any property damage to anything there off the off-ramp there. Pico Boulevard, again, this is a pursuit that started just about 10 minutes past 10 in Van Nuys. It's all over now. The suspect in custody. It doesn't appear that anybody was injured. Gil, in custody?
Yes.
And this one's over. In
custody? Yeah, like you said, perfect conditions for the pit. No one injured, no property damage. All the officers are accounted for and safe, and the suspect in custody.
All right,
by the LAPD and by the CHP.
LAPD started the pursuit. CHP took over just about 15 minutes ago. Right side of your screen right now, we're going to watch the end of this pursuit one more time. There it is, the pit maneuver by CHP. You see the lead car.
Booth.
And it's all over. You see the officers getting out with guns drawn. And then in just a few seconds later, the suspect gets out of the vehicle, hands in the air, and CHP has taken him into custody. The pursuit's over. We'll have the very latest on it coming up on KCAL 9 News. We'll